So I have got one very long question, and I'm just giving you the heads up, Marcia, you're in the firing line first.
Okay.
Okay. So for people, sorry, and I should have said to everybody, these questions, I asked for questions for, and I was submitted questions, and then the working group who organised today agreed on questions. So this is where the ball come from. So sorry, Marcia. For people who are racialised minorities, not part of workload, our university race mission is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And it is psychologically exhausting to deal with issues about race in the OU, which is sometimes in addition to the demands of our regular workload. What advice would you offer those doing this work in an organisation that admittedly does not have safe space or safe space reporting at the moment?
Yeah, that's a challenge. It's been a theme that we've heard throughout the day, isn't it? Just the additional emotional labour of having to deal with issues of race and racism in the institution. And I've said it, and I've heard Jenny say it. It falls on the shoulders of those individuals who are the most marginalised. Which is not okay. So safe space reporting, that's something that we've just started at the university. So we have a tool called Support and Report. We're starting to get that up and running. But I think, the problem with Support and Report is that you have to have structures in place whereby, first of all, people feel confident that they can actually report any issues that come to light and have the confidence that it will be dealt with appropriately. And that is not always in place. So you can have, tools like Report and Support, but, they may not work if you don't have the appropriate structures in place to support that, whereby people know that the issues are going to be dealt with. So that's the first thing that I want to say. I also think that, a moment ago I said that this work falls on those who are the most marginalised, and that has to stop. We, as Black and brown people, we come into higher education. I think back to when I first started. It was a long time ago when I first started lecturing, but I just wanted to teach students and I wanted to write research papers. But my career has gone from lecturer in sports psychology now to Dean of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. And that was simply because I could not tolerate the things that I saw and experienced in higher education. I was quite content doing my lecturing and working with my students. But then I think if you can't, if you can't tolerate these things and you really want to generate change, and if opportunities present themselves for you to make that change, oftentimes we have to grab those opportunities. And so there is this additional emotional labour that Black and brown academic staff and also professional services staff find that that rests on their shoulders alongside the contract that they get given when they start work. So it's almost like, this additional workload that you are expected to do. I think one of the things that becomes really important is, self-care. I'm sure that's come up time and time again, but you have to engage in self-care. And you hear me talk about Audre Lorde, Audre Lorde last week, Thursday. For me, this is about self-care. You have to engage in that. She says it's absolutely crucial and it's not self-indulgent because we were not meant to survive in this system because it was not built for us. So you have to engage in that level of self-care if you are in higher education. So that's the advice I would give, but I would also say that, going back to what I said a moment ago, those structures, those sound structures need to be in place that support marginalised staff. So if you do engage in reporting racist incidents, if you do decide that you're going to report microaggressions, you have to have confidence that it's going to be dealt with appropriately. So I'll just leave it. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Marcia. That's very powerful coming from you, and it's fabulous to know that you already know about and have experience of the report and support mechanism. So maybe we can learn more from you when you do join us in December. That's really helpful, and it's great to know that there's recognition about this additional workload, this emotional workload that are often left on the shoulders of, and somebody in the chat said, thank you for saying brown and not BAME, of our black and brown colleagues. So yeah, really powerful stuff, and that's been a very, very helpful answer. Okay, so I'm moving on to my next question, and Jenny, this is for you. What is the biggest challenge for the OU in developing an inclusive curriculum?
Okay, thank you, Joan. It's our biggest challenge, and also our biggest resource, are all of our many academics, both lecturers, senior lecturers, professors, and also associate lecturers. Because in order to deliver an inclusive curriculum, we need to have a lot of work at the level of writing new modules, updating existing modules, changing modules, and that is all going to require a lot of work by a whole range of people across the university and across all our different faculties. And if we use the inclusive curriculum tool to actually help us to identify areas that need to be changed, we also need to train people in using those in using the inclusive curriculum tool. And in addition to that, we need to train and support our associate lecturers. We've heard today about how, you know, they need to be better equipped to deal with discussing issues of race and racism and colonisation.
Thank you, Jenny. That's a really helpful and comprehensive answer. And I think maybe today it will galvanise support and enthusiasm for the work you're leading on. Thank you. Okay, next I'm going to come to you, Ola. And the question is, what change would you like to see at the OU as an AL?
Wow, okay. So many changes I would like to see. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been at the OU since 2010. I remember my first module presentation briefing session. There were two black and brown ALs amongst around about 40 ALs. That hasn't yet improved. So I would like the OU to really constructively go out and recruit black and brown professionals who can tutor. They're there. We're there. We're all over the place. You go to other universities, they're there. They're teachers. Like I said, I have mentored, taught loads of black and brown young kids who are now young adults, but they're not coming to the OU. Why? Why is that? What is stopping a black and brown professional wanting to be an associate lecturer at the OU? What is it? What stops that barrier? Is there a line across the road somewhere where they know that I don't want to go into that place? I don't think it's safe for me. I don't know. But I think the OU needs to really positively go out there and recruit them, because we can't have a curriculum based on a very high majority of one ethnic group. It just can't be seen. The argument about the inclusive curriculum comes into place, and across the board, as we've seen on the statistics, that curriculum will only be based on the people writing them. And at the minute, the majority of the people writing the curriculum are white. So it's therefore there is a problem. And even the ALs, like myself, who are black and brown, and I will say this because I think this is very clear. The sports and fitness team, academics, the OU academic team, actually have been really, really good. I have been involved in the curricular critical review of at least 2 modules. Now, that is what we, to me, that's professional progression. But is that because they believed I knew what I was doing? You know, what's the process for it? I know there isn't a process across the OU that actually allows ALs to be allowed to be recruited into the curriculum area of writing. It's not a norm. So across the faculties, it's different standards. So again, that's another thing. So once an AL or a black and brown AL comes into the OU, what's the progression and route for them to move from one point to the other? How do they become a senior lecturer if they wanted to? How could they become a professor if they wanted to? What's the route? And as far as I'm aware, there isn't no route open, or is it? And if it is, it's not transparent enough. So now, would I go and speak to my former the guys I used to coach or I used to teach and say, you know what, come to the OU and come and work with me, or come and work with us there? I don't think I would do that, and that's because, as everybody's been saying, at the minute we don't feel safe. We just don't feel safe. I'll go back to that issue about the review. I'm saying this now because it's evident that I was involved in the review of the AL Common Room. But everybody else who was involved in it specifically emailed the person who we wrote the review with that we do not want our names attached to the review because we don't feel we will be supported once that review comes out. So that, you know, is that balance? Does the OU really want to be diversive? Does it want to have diversity? Does it want to have inclusion, or is it just it's a tick box? Do they really want to do that? And I don't know. As it stands now, I know Tim was very powerful in what he said, but then I've heard a lot of white people saying things like that, but actually not backing it up. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Thank you, Ola. That's quite powerful. That's really helpful. And it sounds like we need to really work on our reputation as a university that is attracting and attractive to black and brown ALs, so that we then can actually provide what our students need. And quite sad to hear that even though having been part of the review after the AL Common Room Forum discussions, that nobody wanted to put their name to it because of the lack of feeling safe. So it shows that the university has a lot of work to do in that area. Thank you, Ola, and you're getting a lot of encouragement. And
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to my next question, and this is for you, Patrice. What's the one thing the OU should change to make a difference to Black, Asian and minority ethnic students' success?
Okay. So can you hear me all, by the way?
Yep.
Brilliant, thank you. So I just wanted to put another message out there, I guess, when I'm answering this question, or to answer this question. Assuming that as a HE provider, the OU are built to encourage others to learn and improve themselves, but for them to also be inquiring and inquisitive. Let me change that. Let me try it again. It didn't come out right. Sorry. So, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay. Okay. As a HE provider, the OU are built to encourage and improve the lives, or help others to improve their lives. And this also helps them to build inquiring and inquisitive minds. But the trouble with that, a lot of the times in doing so, they become very assumptive in their narrative, very assumptive in the way how they put things across to students. And what I feel it needs is a very robust, qualitative and dynamic review of experiences of their student cohort. It needs students to bring a wealth of the knowledge that they empower, a wealth of the knowledge that they have to the university to help with the richness of the community, to help with the richness of what the university does provide. It's a partnership. It's a lock and key moment where we cannot function one without the other. The university needs to understand that without their students, they miss a part of themselves. Without the students, they omit a part of themselves. So in order for things to work towards a innovative and sustainable learning environment, we need to involve students more. That means involving them in an equitable way. It means meeting students at their needs. It means giving them voice where normally their voices wouldn't be heard. That's just as what we've done today in the focus group. It means being innovative, because you know what, as a student for myself, I did such wonderful stuff learning. I enjoyed it, you know, learning my design and innovation things inside of the design and engineering department. All of the wonderful design study that I did, I really enjoyed it. But I realized we talk a lot about innovation. We talk a lot about design. We talk about all of the wonderful things we can do to fix and harness and structure design thinking, as well as decision making. But then we don't seem to practice that. We tend to do a lot of talking and a lot of empowering in terms of words, sorry. But we don't seem to reflect or show that when we come to the action. And that's what students need to see. That's what staff need to see. That's what we all need to see in order for us to be a robust and, like I said, dynamic and sustainable learning environment. So in order for the university to really empower students, for them to really help students to get forward in life, it's not to assume that because they're the HE providers who already have the knowledge, who already have everything in place, and who's already educated, that they should be teaching. But they should have that inquiring mind as a university to say, you know what, we could learn from these people too. We could learn, and it's a two-way street. We can learn from each other, and that way we can grow together.
Thank you, Patrice. That's a call to action, I think, on behalf of students. So yes, a robust review of experiences, and the OU needs to hear the student's voice from Black, Asian, minority ethnic background and act on it. Lovely. Thank you, Patrice. Okay, Marcy, I'm going to come back to you next. And my next question is, what made the biggest difference at UEL that impacted on your ability to gain race equality charter status?
I think the biggest difference was the fact that the university was ready to go through the process of applying for the race equality charter mark. I hope it came out when I was talking earlier, but we had a phenomenal race equality self-assessment team. We had 27 individuals from different grades and, you know, different areas across the university that worked as one unit. And we had the sole desire to make changes and to really work towards getting that race equality charter mark, because we wanted to see change. And we also had support from our Vice Chancellor, from senior leaders. So that, for me, that was what was significant. We had really committed, knowledgeable, interesting people who, yeah, we moved as one unit. It was great. It was, you know, I've worked at UEL for 12 years, and I have to tell you that working with those individuals, for me, was it's probably one of the highlights in the 12 years. It was incredible. And I think that, you know, I said to you earlier, it took 2.5 years for us to you know, take that journey and to get the charter mark. But for me, once you actually get the charter mark, the hard work begins. You know, it's an award. It says that you have looked at what the university looks like. You've analysed the data. You've come up with some actions. you want to work towards change within the university. Okay, it's an award. It says that, you know, you've done, you know, A, B, C, and D. For me, it's the action plan and whether you actually follow through with those actions. So the hard work begins, well, not even after you've got the award, because you know, you have to wait a few months to find out. But you should be working towards that change when you are actually engaged in that process. Why wait until you get the award to actually make change? It is something that you should be doing as you work through the process. And we were doing that. And we had the support of senior leaders within the organisation. And it's because the Vice-Chancellor said, you are going to do this. This is what we're going to do. This is important to students and staff. So this is the direction that we are going to go in. And so I know I've kind of thrown a few things in there. So the RecSat was phenomenal. We had an incredible charters manager in Claire Matasova. She was well organised and kept everyone on their toes. And the accountability, you know, it was very much, if you say you're going to do something, you better do it. You better follow through with that action, because that's the way that we're going to get change. But as I say, the leadership, you know, by way of the Vice-Chancellor saying this is important to our institution was also key. So I hope that answers the question, Joan.
That's a fabulous answer. Thank you, Marcia. And it gives us a lot of food for thought, because we have to reconvene our self-assessment team for our race equality charter, and that hasn't started yet. We're doing some preliminary work, but really helpful to have the insight into the fact that you had a really large team and they all pulled their weight, and embedded in there in your success was strong leadership. So they're really important points for us to take away. And of course, it's a really healthy reminder that getting the charter is the first step. Then in actual fact, you know, engaging with the action plan and making it happen is what has to follow through. Okay, that's really helpful, Marcia. Thank you. I think we'll all learn from that. Okay, moving on again. Jenny, second question for you. How can we involve BAME students in developing inclusive curricula at the Open University?
Right. When I sort of spoke before about making sure that we change our academics, I think we also need to involve our BAME students in that process in terms of developing inclusive curricula. Now, it's more difficult with Black and Brown students because, you know, they are studying and we don't want to put extra burden on them. And also we need to make sure that if they are critiquing modules, that they feel safe. And so we need to put all of those structures in place. And I think more widely, in order to develop and to deliver an inclusive curriculum, we need to change the whole structure of the Open University in terms of people feeling, Black and Brown people feeling safe, feeling that they're being supported, because, you know, and also to get that change with all of our white colleagues as well, recognising the role that they have to play. And that means that we have to have, from the top of the university, from the Vice-Chancellor and the Vice-Chancellor Executive, we need to have a commitment to this.
Thank you, Jenny. That's really helpful. And I think you've touched on something that Patrice reflected in her presentation, this idea of students needing to feel that their voice would be heard and to engage. Because I know when Patrice and I were setting up the focus groups, it was quite a challenge to get 10 students to come forward. We thought we'd have many, many more, but it was through a huge amount of effort on Patrice's part that we actually managed to get 10. And it's that, and it also reflects into what Ulla said about not putting their names to a report. So that is quite subtle, isn't it? And almost an invisible challenge, in the sense that If students are feeling it's too much hard work, again going back to this issue of emotional labour. Why should they be involved if they're worried that there's going to be a backlash? And we heard about the backlash that Ulla experienced in the AL Common Room Forum. So there's something quite complex about that challenge that we need to step up to, that to make students feel that their contribution is needed, that they will be protected by safe space, being in a safe space, that they will be valued and they will not be critiqued. I think that's an incredibly powerful message, and thank you, Jenny. That's great to have your insight on that. Okay, I'm coming to you next, Ulla, and your question is, having run the discussion thread in the AL Common Room Forum, what do you think of your AL colleagues now?
Oh, I don't think I'll be doing that again anytime soon. It's interesting because I felt I've worked in education for quite a long time, and I've never had those comments thrown at me at all. But then I've never worked in a distance learning education organization. So I can honestly say that maybe the comments, the negative comments, were made because people were keyboard warriors. They're behind a keyboard and they could spout off anything they wanted because they felt they felt safe doing that. Well, nobody even if they challenge me, they can't really see me per se. Whereas if you're in a physical staff common room, and I'm going to say this, if you see me in the flesh, you'll have to be pretty adamant that a bit crazy in the head to actually look at me straight in the eye and give off the comments that some of them were making. So that bit is there. However, I'm going to say that this is not naivety. It's not utopia. The overall content is that people do want change, and it did come from the white ALs. That the comments of those changes, it did come from them. So there is that element of change, and that could be because yes, they have seen the positivity behind it, and it's not tolerance, it's acceptance. We are here, and we're not going anywhere. So we need to work together. We need to be in this same place for the betterment of our lives. It's as simple as that. And for that, in that case, I have to take that on board and say, yes, I was, if I was asked to go back in again today, I would. I was joking as I would, and be able to take the experiences of what I had and move them further, maybe be more challenging. I had support from the BME networks and people who went in, but maybe I'll even be more challenging. I know Marcia was talking about a few things earlier, and Anita and I had a discussion, and that has prompted me to do even a bit more. So, for example, like I said, I've nominated myself to be an AL rep, because if we're not seen, then we're invisible, and therefore the people who think they can get away with these things will continue to do that. But the more visible we are, the more influential we are in the places of influencing and policy, then they will either go away and sit behind somewhere or get on board on the train and join it. So that's that balance. So I have no ill will to them. And like I've said, I've worked in the sports and fitness team with a range of lovely people, staffed academic team, and I've never had that experience with them. I've never had that. So I know it was just a few idiots in a room who felt that they could do this. But so overall, my experience was positive. I know it sounds like it was positive, because that the overwhelming fact is that people were not agreeing with all the other nasty comments that were coming through.
Thank you, Ulla. You're getting a lot of support in the chat saying, yay, go Ulla. Thank you for that. I think it's very admirable that, having gone through the experience you went through over the summer, that you'd be prepared to go back and challenge. But I think it is really life affirming to hear that you did feel supported by your white colleagues, and they were the absolute majority, and that's really, really an important message to hear today. And it's interesting, somebody said in the chat, yeah, maybe this relative anonymity, although the person's name is there in front of their post, but they're not eyeballing you, are they? They're not sitting across from you in a room saying offensive things, and chances are that they wouldn't dream of face to face. So there's something quite insidious and nasty about the fact that there's that relative anonymity by sitting behind a forum post. Thank you, Ola. That's encouraging that you'd be brave enough to do it again, but you did get support. Thank you. Okay, Patrice, my second question for you. How did you feel as a Black student undertaking the focus groups with fellow students?
For me, can you hear me? Let me just make sure
Yeah.
it's not on mute. Okay, good. Because I tend to put it on mute sometimes. But for me, it was a solemnizing experience, to be honest, because the students inside of the BAME group, well, they had already joined, so I had started developing, sort of a relationship or bond with them. So that made it a little bit more easier. But I had to convince them nonetheless, because they've been bruised, they've been set apart so much, and recognized as others so much, that they felt even reluctant to go represent themselves. They felt even reluctant to speak out, just even in a small group like that, with their own voice, and knowing that there was some level of I can't say that word, anonymity. Thank you. It came out after. But yeah, so with that, it was really solemnizing for me, because I had to try to be there, empower them, and make them feel like, you know what, your voice is gonna matter here. But equally knowing I'm one of them, and I'm also going through the same struggle. It was tough. It was really, really tough as a moment, And secondly, just to add, as you've mentioned, around June time, the Black Lives Matter movement, having students, well, I set up the group with the association in May, and it was really slow to build, because students wasn't even trusting the idea of having one, because we tried it in the past as a diversity, a wider group, and a lot of students didn't come in. They kind of like stayed away, because whatever reason, and just didn't work out how it should have done. And it then came to this one, and students started feeling, okay, you know what, I should come, but very, very minimal, and they weren't sure what we meant as well by just putting the whole category of BAME at the forefront of it. So in I had to go out and rally a lot, but then the Black Lives Matter thing came, and students started running, and I was so grateful that there was a place for them to feel shelter. There was a place for them to feel like, okay, we can come in and we can talk about it, and we can relate with other people who have the same experience, and nobody's going to shut us down because we're upset right now. It's not that I just let them come in there and have negative slurs and say really racist, because that I would shut down as well. But if they spoke their truth, it was a safe space. It was a space where they're allowed to speak what matters to them, and also feel like it's important for them to do so. And so it started growing really, really rapidly. And then we had an advert from the uni about BAME bursaries come out, and that was started, other students started, not myself only, but other students started putting it out. So our white students, my fellow reps, etc., started putting it out in spaces where it's a diverse group. So students who are alumni, students who we don't really take account for anymore, also new students, old students, etc., all mixed together in a big amalgamation with staff and whoever else is inside of these groups. So for one of the biggest ones is about, I think it's 30 something thousand people now, but it was 20 something at that time. And someone put it in there, and it started getting really negative, racially charged slurs, saying that the university is racist for putting it out, and all sorts of different things. It got really toxic, and it's been like that whenever they put anything with the name BAME or highlight that they are there. It gets such negative yeah, if as long as they go along with everybody else, as long as they go along with everybody else and be happy with whatever everybody else is doing, no problems. But soon as they highlight themselves as here and present, they get a lot of negativity. So when Ola was saying he was having that, I felt that, I really did. And it's really hard as a person being BAME myself, as a representative who has to represent all students, knowing that I'm representing people who feel like, or who a lot of people who put me as an other, who don't really give me, that respect as a quality person, inside of the student cohort, and that makes, well, I hope it's not that anyways, but that's what it's coming across as, and so for me, it was really difficult. Just to get back to the question, it was really difficult as a student representing. But again, just like Ola said, there are a lot of people, especially from yourself, Darren, Michelle Pride, who's in I'm going to FBL. I was going to get it wrong then. And other, people, as well as Verity, who's my lead inside of the association. All of those people coming behind me and backing me up and really empowering me and telling me it's okay and saying, here's where you go. Also, there's Anita, there's Suki, who mentioned, something really positive about, the common room earlier from Ola's thing. And a lot of others, Pavati, Sass, everybody just really coming and supporting me and telling me it's okay and this is what you might do and this is what, because we don't have safe space reporting here, it really empowered me as a student to keep going when it was a hard uphill struggle. And so that's what kept me, and that's what made me feel empowered even further. But it was a hard test and a hard journey, and it remains so.
Thank you, Patrice. That was said with real feeling. But I think your success in leading those focus groups, number one, in recruiting so many students to them in the face of adversity, and in running the focus groups, you showed real empathy to students, which you were uniquely placed to do. I think they looked up to you. You totally had them. They knew you understood their experience, and so they did feel safe. And they said things that we know they wouldn't have said in another situation if they didn't feel safe. So well done to you for doing that. The chat box has gone mad again. Thank you, Patrice. You inspire me, and your inspiration. But also, there's been a comment in here about the fact that we need allies. So our Black and Brown colleagues can't do this on their own. And it was a very poignant statement that Marcia made this morning, that I love this idea of go and find a white friend and bring them back. And I think that's just so simple, but absolutely exactly what we need to do. So we have this group, Allies of BME, but I don't think enough people know about it. And I think that we really do need that connection, because it's like the quote this morning from Stuart Hall, we have to appreciate our differences. We have to work together, and together we are stronger. But we have to have Black and brown colleagues having white allies working together to move and make things different. Okay, so we have a little over 5 minutes. And this is the chance for anybody who didn't get a chance earlier in the day to ask a question to either Marcia, Jenny, Ola, or Patrice. And I'm literally going to go by the first hand that comes up as in that order. So you've 5 minutes.
Could I ask hello, this is Denise. Could I ask my question, because the hands thing's not working?
Please do, Denise. You've got the floor.
Oh, brilliant. I just want to say a couple of things. In terms of Patrice and the student association, I can see why you would have serious problems recruiting BMEs, because I, as an OU student since 2014, I hate the OU Student Association, and I make sure that I check to make sure that I don't attend any of their events. They're whiter than white, and they are mean. So I'm glad to see somebody like you that's taken the chair, but I just hope they don't grind you into a pulp and change your personality and chew you up and spit you out. Another comment I wanted to make was in terms of terminology. And I feel that it's very important that it needs to be recognised that Black is not just a group, an homogenous group. That within that you've got your descendants of slaves, you've got your Africans, and we've got different histories with different things that need to be addressed. But my question to Ola and everybody is that regardless of all the work we do, and it's just been fantastic seeing all these brown and Black faces at the OU after all this time in an event. But my question would be, what I notice the white systems tend to do, they love this representation of the population to be their measure of when they have diversity. So to my mind, if in the Open University, when they're going to pat themselves on the back, it will be roughly when they've got about 3% of Black people, so say 1% Caribbean, so many Africans, it's still going to be 90 odd, well, not 90 odd, 88 or whatever percent white. So for me, I struggle to see how the word diverse works in that context, because they will still be able to pick me up and spit me out because we're such a low number. That's me done.
Thanks, Denise. Handel, do you want to respond to Denise?
Me?
Oh, you were the first with your microphone on. Sorry.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, but point by Denise. I think, well, Marcia will be with us in December, so I know she's not going to let the senior management off the hook. So no, it is not just about meeting a quota. That's fine if you want to meet a quota, but I think in the chat there's somebody talking about just rich, diverse group, and that's what we need to have at the OU. So yes, there is a set number that the OU will like to meet, but then we need to move on from that. So it's just the same. It's like the issue about Black History Month. When I first heard of Black History Month, I'm now talking from a perspective that I have Nigerian parents. I lived in Nigeria, I lived in England, so I didn't understand, why is there Black History Month? I'm Black every day. You know, why does there have to be a special month that I am Black? But then when I've lived there long enough, I can see why. Because a lot of people do not understand why there's Black history. They don't understand there's a history of Black people. So therefore, I understand why there's a special month put down there. So we need to take this on point as Black and brown people within the OU, that once a particular quota either has been met or not met, we still have to continue to challenge the management to continue to do what is necessary, not because it ticks a box, not because it looks nice, but because that is what you're supposed to do. If you're a parent, you're supposed to look after your child. You don't need to be told that. You don't need to be, it's not a tick box. You have to look after your child. So there is no reason why we shouldn't have a diverse set of staff at the OU. That is what should happen as normality.
Thank you, Ola. And then last word to Patrice.
Oh, thank you so much. Right, just to add to what Ola said, and it's to Denise as well, I appreciate, and I must stress that, I appreciate how you feel about the association. And for me, when I came in, I had my own challenges with the association. But one thing I want us to do, as I assume you're a BAME person as well, is to be open-minded. Not to say that you have to go back there. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we've all got scars, and in order for us to move forward as a community to help this university to grow, because that's our mandate here, is to help the whole university to grow, and the association is a very valuable and important part of that. So we have to remember that in terms of equity, in terms of helping to make the diverse, robust, division, which are students, a part of the university, we have to take them along with us. And so as I am a representative of the association, and I'm going to back them up for the sake that I have been there for the past year and a bit, and I've seen their challenges, and I think they see their challenges, and they're trying to make change. I'm not saying it's great, because nothing here at our university is fully great just yet. but we have to be mindful of what we feed ourselves. We have to be mindful of how we help ourselves move forward. We could stay stagnant with the things that burnt us. And if that's what we're going to do, then we live inside of a mentality which is inside of a pit. We cannot do that to help ourselves progress. We have to be the people who make change. We have to be the people who bring positivity. And in order to do so, it means we have to look at the people who were our enemies at one point and learn to understand them and learn to teach them how we can grow forward together. Thank you.
Well said, Ruth, and that's a fabulous way for us to end our day. Thank you so much, and thank you to our speakers who have done a double whammy today. So you've not only come and presented to the whole group, thank you for that, but you've also turned up again and sat there waiting for these questions. And we've had fabulous answers from you, so thank you so much. You've really made our day.
Is it okay just to say one quick thing? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, I've been going, I've got 3 jobs. Hello, Marcia, you probably don't remember from a long time ago. I'm in the STEMs now. I think when you knew me, I was in the psychology. I'm in STEMs now. I teach at a Russell Group University, Imperial, another university, and at Open University. And one thing I would say of my experience of Open University is that I, like all of you, are not only Black people, but we also have a profession as well, and we have a discipline. And I used to be very internationally known on the circuit in China, and where else have I been? Loads of places, talking about race. But one thing that I found after a while was that I was always being asked to talk about race and diversity issues, which is what I started off doing in psychology, and not for my science issues. And so I don't want us to be ghettoized again, because we're seen as only being able to talk about those issues and not about our other issues. When I've forgotten the chap's name, but earlier you did a fantastic presentation. I think it was you, the one who said he's 51. Is that you? Yeah, Ola, when he was showing the statistics, which I found very heartbreaking, especially in my own faculty in science, and to find out that probably that one person may be me. I don't know. But what is it that we need to do? We need to get across. I mean, I've had discussions before with Tim, because I did AO presentations at the conference, mostly looking at neurodiversity, because I'm a neuroscientist. They're looking at the brain and difference, and the brain and how we work with unconscious bias. So that was my area, and I had the fortunateness to be able to ask Tim a question. He seems not to have moved very much on from the answer that he gave me. And I am really happy to see students and poetry and all of that to be helping, to kind of be getting the way forward. But all the way through the day, it's been really brilliant to see people of colour talking about issues, like at the beginning, talking about, how many Black female professors we've got, etc., etc. But I think we also have to recognise, as you said, that Patrice, that we have to get those others on board. I'll give you a very quick example. When I was training, before I became a scientist...
I'm going to come in there now. We are running 5 minutes over, so please...
Oh, sorry.
Last example, Angela. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're going to give us your example. If you could just make it short.
All I was going to say is that whenever I ask about why we don't have these issues on the curriculum, which is in psychology, at the time I was asked why don't I teach it, as if it's only an issue for people of colour. And I think we need to make them realise that it's not only their issue, and that diversity is important. But I just want to say thank you very much for putting this day on as well. And if you think there's any way that we can encourage people of non-Black and Asian backgrounds to be more forceful.
Andrew, that's very well said. And I think we need to hear more from you and your passion, and help us improve things, because that's what today has been about. I'm glad you've enjoyed the day, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.